Yeah, I heard that.
Welcome to the continuing series of lectures put on by the Fredericksburg-Este Association, Fredericksburg Sister City, which is aligned with Este, Italy, very close to Venice. And we are 10 years old this year. We've been giving lecture series in the fall and the spring for a very long time. And the topics and the speakers have had some kind of relationship with Italy. Some about the Iceman, all the way up to Pompeii, into Giotto at the chapel. Other topics have been elementary education under Mussolini, which was really interesting. So we strive to give back to the community that supports us by offering these lectures, and it also helps us fulfill our mission about promoting and educating people about all things Italian. I have a few announcements to make. As you know, we are going as a group in a small bus up to the Kennedy Center on April 6th to hear Mendelssohn's Italian Symphony. And the deadline for purchasing those tickets is March the 3rd, because we have to have everything accounted for by 1 month ahead. So you can go to the website for that, or you can see me. Tickets are $60, which covers your transportation, the van parking, and the ticket and the taxes and handling fees for the trip. Our annual meeting is March 12th, right around the corner. There are membership forms in the back if you would like to join, and we have a very full program, both for members only and for community events such as this. So we are an active and fun group. I mean, when you have Italian wine with everything you do, it's gonna work. So that's coming up, and it will be in the Dorothy Hart. It will be in the theater of the downtown library on Caroline Street. The other thing that's coming up is the Sister City Potluck. Once a year, usually in April. This is going to be April 10th. All the sister cities come together. They bring the food of their native countries. A lot of people dress up in native clothes. And we share what's been going on in the year and also what's coming up with all the sister cities. It's a wonderful and fun event, very, very culturally enriching, I think. There's another project that I've been working hard on, and that is to bring the daughter of James Monroe home from an unmarked grave in Paris, to bring her back, repatriate her remains, and reinter her with her father, sister, and mother in Hollywood Cemetery. If you want to talk to me about that, I would love to tell you. I've been working on this project for 5 years. And we've gotten to the stage now that we can actually start fundraising, because it looks like all the Lego pieces are going to fit just fine. I'm excited about that. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce representatives from the Italian American Cultural Association of Virginia, headquartered in Richmond. They are going to talk to us about a fascinating topic that I really didn't know anything about. Just a little about the Cultural Association. One of the services that they do is, if you want to apply for Italian citizenship, they have a branch of their association that will help you with that. They also give scholarships and financial aid to students of Italian descent, which is a noble and wonderful thing. Our representative tonight from the club is John Corriton, John, let's step up. And he's worked about as hard as I did on Eliza, on the statue restoration fund, and also on the chairing the Columbus Committee to restore and re-exhibit Columbus's statue, along with Mr. Coratone is Paul De Pasquale. Did I say that okay? Where are you? There you are. Who is the famous sculptor who did our ever recognizable trident sculpture down in Virginia Beach, and also the Arthur Ashe statue that is erected on Monument Avenue in Richmond. You know, I'm going to stop there because I could talk more about this, but I don't have as much information as these guys do. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Kathy. Buonasera. Good evening. Thank you for the warm welcome and the invitation tonight from the Fredericksburg-Este Association, especially Catherine Willis, the president, and Odell Pryor, program chair. I'm John Coratone from the Italian American Cultural Association, and also the committee chair of the Columbus Statue Restoration. IACA, as we're affectionately called, was founded in 1984 to unite Italian Americans and anyone who has an interest in our rich Italian heritage and culture. Our members come from all walks of life and parts of the United States, mostly from the North and the Midwest. It's the passion to explore our history and promote our culture that connects us. Our organization, as Catherine mentioned, provides scholarships. We provide 3 yearly scholarships to deserving students, and we host a yearly fundraiser. IACA features monthly socials for members and guests, including Carnival in February, a St. Joseph's Luncheon in March. This year it's Sunday the 16th. And in December, a Christmas Dolce party. We have a number of our IACA members here tonight. Would they stand and just be acknowledged? We have our president, Rick Gentile, Debbie Coratone, the treasurer, Nick Russ, Eileen Russ, Joe Acameda, Christine Acameda, and Carl Tarantino, along with Paul De Pasquale. But tonight I want to share with you our organization's 4.5-year effort to obtain, restore, and find a permanent location for the Columbus statue that stood in Richmond for over 93 years. In addition, my friend and colleague Paul, the renowned sculptor that created the Arthur Ashe statue that's prominently displayed. Oh boy. We did that for Paul, yes? Okay. All right. That's prominently displayed on Monument Avenue in Richmond. Paul's going to talk about the state of statues and monuments in society today. The Columbus statue had been a fixture in the Richmond community since 1927, before the evening of June 9th, 2020, when the statue was illegally toppled, vandalized, set on fire, and thrown into a nearby lake by individuals protesting the May 2020 death of George Floyd. Since that fateful evening, for 2.5 years, our organization worked diligently to negotiate with the city of Richmond for ownership of the vandalized statue. On December 12th, 2022, Richmond City Council voted unanimously to transfer ownership of the statue to IACA, and on February the 7th, 2023, the physical transfer of the statue was completed. Cost to repair and restore the statue was in the $5,000 to $7,000 range, which was determined by Paul. So how did IACA become involved with the statue? For a number of years, the grounds surrounding the statue had become unsightly and ungroomed. In 2014, our organization took over the care and the maintenance of the grounds from the city and returned the grounds to a space of natural beauty. And that all ended on June 9th, 2020, when the statue was toppled. Through generous donations from our members, organizations, businesses, and a very successful fundraising effort in 2023, IACA member Frank Papik, who wasn't able to join us this evening, offered his skill and knowledge as a retired New York City welder to remove the layers of graffiti, lead paint, and debris using a sandblasting technique. Paul De Pasquale oversaw the overall restoration project with his expertise in restoring metalwork, and later that summer, Paul put the finishing touches on the statue by staining and sealing it. Since last year, my committee has worked with great effort to find a permanent home in the Richmond area and Virginia, where the restored statue could be appreciated as a work of art and to preserve and maintain the legacy of Christopher Columbus for current and future generations. A number of museums, organizations, the Knights of Columbus, the Diocese of Richmond and Washington were contacted, along with embassies of Italy and Spain, even the Mariners Museum in Newport News, to discuss permanently placing the Columbus statue on their sites, but without success. Unfortunately, efforts to keep the statue in Richmond and Virginia were undermined by a fear of violence to the statue and its guardians. In May of 2024, IACA began discussions with the Rockland Lodge Order of the Sons of Italy in Blovant, New York, 30 miles north of New York City. This lead was initiated again by Frank Papik, who helped restore the statue, who mentioned to me that a former co-worker of his from New York knew of a Sons of Italy lodge that was very interested in the Columbus statue. The rest was history. The lodge is one of the most active fundraising organizations in Rockland County, highlighting their efforts each year with a 4-day Italian festival that attracts over 40,000 visitors each September. From the proceeds of the festival, the Sons of Italy Lodge awards over $30,000 to $40,000 in educational scholarships each year. An agreement was completed by both parties in July, and IACA met with lodge members at their lodge in June. The lodge transported the restored statue from Richmond to their site in July and celebrated the rededication in September, which IACA members attended. The Columbus statue today is prominently displayed at the lodge, as you will see in a moment with the video of the event. With the statue's new home, the legacy of Christopher Columbus will be kept alive. Columbus represents in ways the American legacy in this country, where all of us as immigrants or descendants of immigrants arrived in America in search of a better life and the freedoms that America provides. So too were the Italian immigrants who settled in Richmond starting in the 1850s, forming a small cohesive segment of Richmond's population. In 1925, the Italian business community organized a drive to honor Christopher Columbus and chose to erect a statue of him. The statue was completely sculptured, financed, and erected by the Italian community in Richmond and was dedicated and gifted to the city of Richmond on December 9th, 1927, the first Columbus statue erected in the South. I am so proud of the grassroots efforts on saving the Columbus statue from ruin, the restoration and locating a safe, secure site to continue to honor Christopher Columbus as a symbol of cultural identity and Italian-American pride. Today, the account for the Columbus statue continues as IACA establishes the Christopher Columbus Fund from its reserves after the repair and the restoration of the statue. These contributions will be awarded to organizations that support individuals and families in their journey, assimilating into society and assisting them towards legal citizenship in this country. A particular interest is supporting St. Elizabeth's Catholic Church in the Highland Park area of the city of Richmond. Established in 1923, the church assisted the Italian-American immigrant community that settled there. Many of those were stonemasons and artisans from Tuscany whose decorative stonework still decorates iconic buildings in Richmond today, including the sculpture that created the Columbus statue, Ferruccio Legnaioli. Today, St. Elizabeth continues to support and embrace the new wave of immigrants that currently resides in Highland Park. Coming full circle, I can think of no better way to utilize our resources from the Christopher Columbus Fund than to support this worthwhile endeavor. Today, those moving to America are often referred to as the new melting pot. The only way we as Americans can truly be one is to embrace diversity and to make it a sign of richness, not weakness. We believe that Columbus's courageous 1492 voyage was a catalyst that initiated over 500 years of immigration in the Americas by people from every corner of the earth, all of whom were seeking a better life for their families. Please consider donating to the Christopher Columbus Fund through the Italian American Cultural Association at our website at www.iacava.org. Thanks very much for your time. And now I'm going to turn the mic over, or the computer over, to my wife, and we'll enjoy the video from the rededication at the Sons of Italy Lodge in Beaumont, New York. Thank you very much.
There's new homage to Christopher Columbus in Rockland County. The 2,000-pound bronze statue of him arrived yesterday morning at the Rockland Sons of Italy Lodge in Blauvelt. It was driven up 12 hours from Virginia. It was defaced and vandalized during protests in Richmond in 2020. News 12 is told an Italian-American organization from that area fundraised thousands of dollars to have it restored.
Proud of our heritage. We're proud of the impact that the Italian culture has had on the world. And Christopher Columbus is a symbol of that. A lot of things are being taken away. We're not trying to take away anything from anybody else, but this is what we have, and we're proud of it.
The statue was first made in 1925, making it nearly 100 years old.
We're stopping this because I just want to introduce you to Mike Pizzi, the president of the Sons of Italy. Mike has quite a personality. You'll enjoy some of his comments that he makes. Hard to believe, his family owns a funeral home in New York, and I don't think I've ever met a mortician that has had so much enthusiasm. So I just wanted you to get a little
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Will the crowd from Virginia please settle down? I know, you guys are very excitable. Be back up where the people are normal. Good afternoon, and welcome to Rockland Lodge 2176 of the Order of Sons of Italy in America. I am Michael Pizzi, the proud president of the Lodge. Thank you. There's going to be a lot of names and a lot of applause, unfortunately. Bear with me. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful occasion as we dedicate this symbol of discovery, adventure, perseverance, and the spirit of Italian culture. Christopher Columbus has had many fantastic voyages, and hopefully this will be his last, at least for this one. On behalf of our committee, myself, Nikki Sofrega, and Ralph Cipriano, over here next to Billy Barbera, we thank you for your support and commitment to keeping Christopher Columbus and all that he represents alive.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've walked were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in there, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? L'Italia se desta, dal municipio se cinta la testa, dove la vittoria le porga la chioma, se chiama di Roma Dio. Fratelli d'Italia, d'Italia la destra, del municipio se cinta la testa, dove la vittoria le porga la chioma, che schiava di Roma, che Dio la creò. Stringiamoci al corte, siamo pronti alla morte, l'Italia chiamò. Stringiamoci al corte, siamo pronti alla morte, l'Italia chiamò.
At this time, for the blessing, I call Father Joe Pavone from St. Elizabeth's Church in Wyckoff, Brother Chip, and Brother Nick, if we could please unveil our statue.
Just want to say briefly, my name is Father Joe Pavone. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey. It's my honor to be here today to honor Christopher Columbus in this beautiful statue, especially in a time when so many are trying to rewrite history. We can remember Columbus for the brave, courageous figure he was, who in many ways is responsible for bringing our faith to the New World. So we pray together in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, source of all grace and holiness, look kindly on your servants who have placed this image of Christopher, the friend and co-heir of Christ, in this place. He is for us your witness to the life of the gospel and stands in your presence to plead for us. Grant that we may benefit from his prayers. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. May the blessing of Almighty God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit come down upon this image of Christopher.
I'm gonna do it though.
our member, our friend, I miss him a lot because he's not here no more, Mike Waller. Mike Waller, it's an election year, he has 15 more stops after here, so I'm gonna ask you to come and speak now, and this way you can go on with your day. Thank you.
Now, Mike Waller, the reason he's making these 50 stops, he was running for re-election for Congress. He was a congressman that represented the Rockland County, Orange County, Hudson Valley area. And Mike is a very up-and-coming politician. I think you may have seen him on CNN or Fox News. He is really gaining recognition throughout America.
Is he a Trumpy?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
He's not a Trumpy. He is, I think he's more middle of the road Republican. But there's thought, I think, what I've heard is that he may be running for governor of New York when that comes up for election.
And what's his last name?
Lawler.
Lawler?
Lawler.
He's also a member, isn't he, John?
He's a member of the Sons of, and he has been a member of the Sons of Italy Lodge in Louvain for many years, along with his family. Well, I'll just let you listen to his talk.
He's a member of our lodge. We're proud to have him. When he was nobody, he was with us, and he still comes around, believe it or not.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here at the Blauvelt Sons of Italy, Rockland Lodge 2176. As Mike said, I am a proud member of this lodge. I'm a proud Italian American, and have been proud to represent this community in both the state legislature and now in Congress. And one thing that I will always do is stand up for our Italian American heritage, for our Italian American community, and fight to preserve Columbus Day and the many achievements, accomplishments, and contributions that Italian Americans have made to make the United States the greatest country on the face of the earth. When some of my New York City colleagues tried to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, I proudly fought back and stood up against that because not only is it trying to rewrite history, but it is trying to erase the contributions of Italian Americans. And we can and should recognize others and their contributions to this great country, but not at the expense of Italian Americans. And that is why I'm so proud to be here today for this statue unveiling. And I want to thank our fellow Italian Americans from Virginia who fought the good fight and did the work to restore this beautiful statue, and for graciously entrusting this lodge with protecting and preserving not only the statue, but our Italian American heritage and the many contributions that have resulted from Christopher Columbus's exploration of the West. And you can cheer for that. There will be many who will continue to fight to change Columbus Day. There will be many who will continue to fight to tear down statues like this. But it is incumbent upon all of us to speak loud and clear that we will not tolerate it, we will not stand for it, and we will fight day in, day out to preserve Columbus Day, to preserve statues like this, and to preserve and promote Italian Americans across the United States. So God bless you. God bless this lodge. I do miss you guys. This is a great group of guys and gals who stand up every day and play a little bocce, smoke some cigars. We may or may not have a poker game here, but it's a great lodge. Lou, you didn't hear that. It's a great lodge and really just a great contribution to this community, to this town, and to this county, and to this state.
At this time, I'd like to call forward John Cortone. John Cortone is the president of the Italian American Cultural Association of Virginia. It's the reason why we're all here today. Through some bizarre circumstances, Pat Peterson, who's in the back over there, is a union member that knew a guy in Virginia, and they talked to each other, and there was this statue that was looking for a home, and through these weird, bizarre circumstances, we found each other, and here we are today, after, I guess, about a year of negotiations, maybe, and we've developed a special friendship, I think, between your group and our group. And I couldn't be more proud to have all of you here. A bunch of them also came up for our feast a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately they couldn't come up today. But today we have John, as I said, John Cortone and his wife, Debbie. We also have the future president of their club, Rick Gentile, Virginia Hubert, their past president, Joe and Chris Iacometta are here, as well as Tony and Winnie Scalora. So I thank you all for taking the trek up here to join us today. Now,
Thank you, Mike. I think right now we're going to just move on to this plaque that the Sons of Italy Lodge displayed at the base, and the words of the plaque actually were written by one of our members, Tony Perico, and it really sums up perfectly what the statue has meant to us, our involvement with it, and just being grateful to the Sons of Italy Lodge for offering it a new home. So, and I just
negotiating with the city.
Just the last sentence: may the statue of Christopher Columbus inspire us to embrace the spirit of discovery and foster a community that learns from history and champions tolerance. And that's what we hope they choose.
You know what the speaker mentioned, Paul, ago? Some people were trying, I'm still not sure what day it is. If you look at the calendars that I get free in the mail, a third of them say Columbus Day, a third of them say Indigenous Peoples Day, and a third of them have both of it on that day. So I just consider it both, I guess.
Of Richmond, and on December 12, 2022, Richmond City Council voted unanimously to transfer ownership of the statue to the Italian American.
This is the last individual that talks. His name is Andre DeMio. He's the president of One Voice Coalition, the Italian American One Voice Coalition. It's a nationwide anti-bias organization that defends Italian American heritage and combats all forms of bigotry through education, legislation, and advocacy. Andre is, when you hear him speak, he has so much passion, so much love for Italian culture and history, and I'll just leave it at that.
As Robert Frito says, from the Italian American One Voice Coalition, I only recently met him. He's another fighter, and we're blessed to have him here today as well.
Thank you very much. I am really honored to be here today. And I'm so pleased when I reached out to my friend, Paul Borghese, for introducing me to Mike Peters. So I want to thank you, not just for the umbrella, but for the introduction as well. The Italian American One Voice Coalition, as my dear friend Robert Frito said, is solely dedicated to preserving, protecting, and defending Italian American heritage, culture, and our civil rights. Because we do have civil rights. Many people don't believe that because Italian Americans are the last ethnicity that's okay to bash, and there's no political correctness when it comes to Italian Americans. And as you heard from many people, there's a lot to try to change history, but I have to tell you a little bit more about what Robert so passionately spoke about. Where this came from was Howard Zinn, a self-declared anarchist and Marxist that hated our country and wanted to destroy it. And he wrote a book in 1980 to go against our country. And he started with the foundation of Western culture, and that was Columbus' arrival in the New World, where he united the continents together and brought not only culture,
but religion to this part of the world. And that's why Howard Zinn wrote that book. And unfortunately, the Zinn Education Project continues every single day. And that's why we've had generations now of young people that have been brainwashed to think that Columbus and other leaders of America, like Jefferson, Washington, and others, did not do the right thing here. And you have to correct that and look at the facts. The facts are that what Zinn said about Columbus is just not true. You check the basic facts. We even have an indigenous person by the name of Raphael Ortiz that wrote 4 books defending Columbus and correcting the things that Howard Zinn said. And he did that from primary sources and actual facts. So that's why there is, and you heard this word today, there is a legacy for Columbus that's important here in this country. Just a little bit of background for myself. Both my parents came from Sicily. I was born in Brooklyn, that's a suburb of Sicily. And you know, my grandfather, he owned fishing boats when he was in Sicily. And they told him the streets were paved with gold when he came to America, but they weren't. And the only job he could get was working on the docks in New York. And he told me that every day he went to work, he knew that he was the lowest paid person there because they had a list of pay, and Italians were on the bottom. And they used to spit on him, calling him all the names, and I'm not going to repeat them here. But you know what that was? But what he instilled in me was a patriotism for this country, because he said this is the greatest country in the world. And on Columbus Day, he knew that that was the day that Italian Americans were honored. Because, you have to realize, our ancestors went through denigration, defamation, and even the largest lynching that ever occurred in this country of 11 innocent Italian Americans in New Orleans in 1891. And that's why in 1892, the President Harrison declared the 400th anniversary of Columbus' arrival in this country as the first Columbus Day. Why? It's an atonement, an apology to our ancestors and what they went through. So we have to preserve that legacy. That's our responsibility. And I'm really so proud to work so closely with CSJ, Robert Frito, and our 2 organizations. That's what we do every single day. We defend our heritage against discrimination, against stereotyping, and of course we defend Columbus everywhere that we can. In fact, in September of 2020, we filed the first federal litigation in federal court to defend the Columbus statue that was taken down in West Orange, New Jersey. And that court case is still ongoing. We've achieved standing, and if we have to, we're going all the way to the Supreme Court to stop this garbage that's going around this country. Our organization is comprised totally of volunteers, and we're so pleased that we had that. And to that end, and Robert and CSJ has been involved with that, we were able to form an alliance with the Native American Guardians Association, a Native American group that joins with us in trying to fight cancel culture, because they're being canceled with names like Redskins and other team names being taken away. Native Americans don't want those names taken away. And they also don't want Columbus Day taken away to celebrate them. They join with us, and we form now an alliance with the Native American Guardians Association. And that's how we're fighting back against the stupidity out there. Got nothing against indigenous people. We want them to enjoy their day, but don't take away our day from us. So I think you see that both Robert and I have a little bit of passion when it comes to it. But on this day, when we spoke so much about legacy, I want to tell you that we are presenting the Italian American Legacy Award to both the Italian American Cultural Association of Virginia and this great lodge here up in Rockland. So I'd like to ask the 2 representatives to come up and receive our award.
Next time, please come a little more prepared.
Pictures.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
On behalf of my lodge, myself, the Grand Lodge, I'd like to thank Father Joe and Deacon Joe, the Knights of Columbus, for their color guard, which can now be dismissed. The Tappan Fire Department, the Youngstown Police Department, all of the elected officials, good luck to those of you that are running. Keep up the good work. Thanks to the passion of the Grand Lodge, the CSJ, and our newfound friend Andre for keeping up the fight. On behalf of myself, Michael Penzi, the president of this lodge, the Italian American Cultural Association of Virginia, the Order of Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, the New York Grand Lodge, and all people who like Italian food. God bless America.
Is everybody ready?
Please use the microphone.
Please, okay.
Yeah, use the microphone. You don't have audio. You don't have audio. I do have some, but let's see. But yeah, I can plug it in. Sure. Well, only if you have audio. I do have a short audio. Y'all will see in a minute the value of the audio.
Great. Well, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce my dear friend Paul de Pasquale. Paul and I became acquainted during the early stages of IACA working to obtain the Columbus statue from the city of Richmond. He provided guidance for me to navigate through the layers of bureaucracy to get through city government, and I'm so grateful for Paul of that. In the summer of 2023, Paul and I worked closely together during the repair and restoration of the Columbus statue and developed a friendship that I truly, truly treasure. Paul received his undergraduate degree from the University of Virginia in field sociology with a minor in art and a master's degree from Virginia Commonwealth University in sculpture. Paul's public works, as Catherine had mentioned, include the iconic 34-foot tall bronze depiction of the Roman god Neptune, along with the 22-foot law enforcement memorial representing the fallen in the line of duty. Both are located on the boardwalk in Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
Most notably, the Arthur Ashe Monument that is prominently displayed on Monument Avenue in Richmond is Paul's most prominent work. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul de Pasquale.
Probably we ought to get up and do some exercises or deep breathing, but I'm brief. And I told John I'd like to quote Shakespeare that brevity is the soul of wit. So I'm going to work on that tonight. But what I'm going to show is just what we did to renovate the statue of Columbus. And really the reason you're here tonight, the reason that everybody spoke about the statue going to New York, the reason people work so hard to reclaim the statue is that it is cultural capital, just like money you put in the bank. Yeah. It's capital. What our organization, everybody here is doing is maintaining that capital. And sometimes it sells high and sometimes it sells low, just like money in the bank. Columbus hit a low after the 2020 riots in Richmond. And the leadership in Richmond didn't recognize it. Perhaps, to give them credit, couldn't recognize it. But we're in a position like that now. Everybody here is here because your relatives were immigrants. Your relatives fought hard to be here and worked hard to make America what it is today. And we have people in our country who are doing the same thing, who are immigrants, and they're being run out of the country. So we need to keep that in mind, that we are one. We're the United States of America. And it's a tough time, but capital on a number of levels is low. And statues represent a little page in the book of capital, but they're symbols. And the symbol of Columbus and the story of Columbus means that there's room on the day of Columbus Day and Indigenous Day for everybody. It really can be both those groups represented. So with that, I'm going to try something. Everybody here looks friendly. So I like to do a preview of what you're going to see, and then I'm going to go back over it again and explain it a little bit, briefly, with wit. So let's see how this works. I may have put my glasses on for this, but don't be alarmed. So we'll hit play.
Oh, yeah.
I don't wanna ride around town in my car. I turn on the TV and turn it right back off. I got 100 records on the set. There, that's what you're gonna see. Now, a little bit of explanation for what you just saw, but you know, I'm just trying to appeal to the Instagram people in the car. Trying to keep up, folks. I mean, that's what it's really about. Let me see if I can get back to play again. And that's a friend of mine's song, wrote that, performed it. It shows our age, right? Okay. So. Oh, wait a minute. We don't want that this time. So we saw this picture. Some of John's pictures and my pictures will duplicate. But a beautiful statue was turning green, which is what bronze statues do. And in my opinion, that's fine. Once they get a little green, the oxidation stops 99%, and it doesn't erode. It just stays green for a long time. Hence, the 3,000-year-old Greek bronze statues that were in the salty ocean for that length of time. So Columbus will be around a long time as a symbol. This is what he looked like before being removed by force. And this was the head on the front of the Richmond Times-Dispatch when the governor decided that Lee had to come down, the statue of Robert E. Lee. And appropriately enough, it was, of course, controversial at the time, but there needed to be an explanation about the history, a better explanation than none, than the zero. So, but what happened at this time is it rushed through the process of taking it down, and the conservator for the state, the art conservator, said, well, we're going to take it down and take it apart the same way it was put together. So what that meant was that after being in many pieces, cast in the foundry in France, and shipped over to the United States, it ended up in 3 pieces that were brought to the site. And those pieces sleeved together. The pieces were the figure of Lee from the waist up, the horse down to the top of the legs, that was the second piece. And the third piece were the 4 legs attached to what's called the base plate. And the base plate sits on top of the pedestal, or the pediment. Well, it was impossible to do that. And I want to say that what John did is at this point, it was at about this time that Columbus was torn down and was dragged and thrown into the bird park nearby, like about 3 blocks away. So I just want to show you a couple pictures of Lee. You can see the pins that were driven into the holes to allow the waist to sleeve into the horse body, or the part of the waist that was sitting on the horse. My job was, so what John did was say, can you find Columbus? At the same time, I was hired by the city because they figured to consult. I put up the Arthur Ashe Monument. I might know something about taking them down and safeguarding the statues. So I suggested that the statue not be cut off at the waist, but be turned diagonally on the truck bed. So the green lines represent the truck bed. But it was kind of like being invited to dinner, but keep your mouth shut. You know? So that was what the way they wanted to do it, was to cut Lee off at the waist. Since they couldn't take him apart at the waist, they would cut this bronze sculpture at the waist. That makes it very difficult to put it back together. It can be put back together, and it probably will be put back together. The inside of that sculpture, and all of them, including Columbus, is like a time capsule, given the workmanship that went into it. This shows what I called a tire and pallet sandwich. That's why they paid me the big money. And so the tire pallet sandwich is what we transported, how we transported those statues. This is the statue of Jackson. And to make matters exciting, it started raining and lightning started to strike. But that's a whole different lecture, talk about that. But so this is what Columbus looked like after being painted before he was pulled down. And then when he was pulled down, he was dragged over to this pond that wasn't very deep and thrown in. That's the flash from the cameras illuminating the foot of the statue. Those are the books to the left of the screen. The pieces of the monuments and the statues were put in storage and cataloged so that they can be, each one is labeled and they can be put back together. This is the Robert E. Lee parts to the pedestal. The total is 930 pieces of stone that made that up alone. So it was like 2 football fields of these parts for all the statues. In the background, you can see the statues covered. So John said, well, we really need you to find Columbus. So I started looking for Columbus, and it took me a year to finally get through the city, and this is where I found him. Under these tarps, where he had been left, and that was a fine place to leave it. He'd been standing for almost 100 years. It's not going to hurt to be under a tarp for a year and a half. But he had been painted and looked like this. So this is a close-up once we brought the statue out to the farm to sandblast it. This is Nick sandblasting Frank, sorry. And then after he was done with the full day work, or day and a half actually, it looked like this, which is pretty, but it won't last. It won't last looking like that. So we brought it into the barn, and we were able to do a cold patina on it, and then bring him out to look like this. And finish the patina with a sealant, and it really turned out beautifully. So head to toe, he looks like this today, and it'll stay this way for probably about 25 or 30 years and begin to tinge in green, unless he is polished and waxed and kept up that way, if you want to keep them brown. This is, I think this is, I'm going to ask you to say, Rinaldi, yeah. So this is a relative who had the flag that was given to the Virginia Historical Society in Richmond of Virginia, of course, but they've changed their name to the Virginia Museum of History and Culture. Virginia Museum of History and Culture, and they didn't want anything to do with any of the statues. That's called the low part of cultural capital, and it's really a shame. They didn't want anything to do with it. She is the person who delivered a flag that was at the unveiling to the Virginia Museum of History and Culture, which they did accept. But we wanted them initially, had hoped that they would take the statue as well, representing the symbol that it was for Italian Americans. So I want to thank you all for your attention today and inviting us here. I have one last goodbye, and Della, I'm going to ask you to lead and translate for us.
Jackie, you can do that.
So, tutto è bene che c'è finisce bene. All is well that ends well. Thank you all very much. Perfect. I forgot to say, are there any questions? And there is a question in the back. Yes,
Do we
sir.
think this statue is a true likeness of Columbus?
That's a good question. Here's a drawing of Columbus right over here. And I looked up, there's a number of interpretations. Of course, he was a working man, and he probably looked different depending on his clothing and his hair and what he was doing at the time. But so I don't know the answer to that. I also wanted to mention on the table over here, there's some things, some takeaways. There's postcards of other works of mine, but there's the pile that's the thickest. You're welcome to take one of those. That's Neptune at Virginia Beach. So, but any other questions that came up for either John or myself?
Did your organization regret that the statue left Virginia?
That's a deep question, and I think, if you couldn't hear, did the organization regret that the statue left Virginia? It was debated quite a bit, and the fact is, we wanted a good home for it and a safe home for it, and we wanted it in a community that is the Italian-American community that understands the symbol that Columbus is for Italian Americans and for America. If you look at statues, first of all, they're either green or brown. And lots of times you can't tell whether they're African American, Caucasian, Italian, Spanish, they could be French, they could be any nationality, but they're symbols, and what people attach to that is the meaning. And so the meaning of Columbus is an American symbol and legacy. So we were happy that it found a good home with people who raised the value, the cultural capital of Columbus, and we're proud to extend it. And John, do you have another thing to say about that?
And I mean, we tried very hard to find. We tried very hard to find a suitable place to place Columbus where he could be appreciated, and we just weren't able to do that at this point in time. I mean, we really felt that we did our due diligence, and when we were informed about the Sons of Italy Lodge in New York, that's why the group of our board members went up there in June, just to meet with them and just to experience what their lodge is all about. And we just came away from it, all of us, and just said, this is the place for the statue. This is a home for the statue. I even asked Paul, I think right before we negotiated with the Sons of Italy, I said, Paul, are we doing the right thing? Is it too early? And I think you paused a little bit and you said, John, you said, eventually public opinion is going to change, but who knows when? And, it may be 5 years, it may be 10 years, it may not be in our lifetime. So we just felt that we were doing the right thing, and we just moved on. Yes?
Here's an irony. Right before this meeting, I was in a meeting next door at the museum, which was discussing, and we don't have a statute, but it was discussing the slave block. The big concern is vandalism, when you put something out in public.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you have to consider vandalism, whether it's Columbus, a slave block, or anything. And or Robert E. Lee. I mean, it's an unfortunate societal issue that if you're putting something out there that's public, you gotta face it. Not
Yes.
really Columbus,
Which
but you
is
see what
sad.
I'm
No.
saying.
Yes.
Why was it that the museum did not want anything to do with the
Go
George
figure.
Washington? Was it monetary issues?
Well, you know,
Safety.
I think we were told that the size of the statue, actually, they were gonna, oh, the question was, why did the Virginia Museum of History and Culture reject the Columbus statue? And what I was told was that the statue would just overpower that particular space at the museum, that it was an outdoor statue. But I think, Paul, they were talking about doing an exhibit on immigration in Virginia for 2026. And, you know, we really thought, wow, this tie-in would be excellent, excellent. Plus, they have the flag that Anna Gregnari actually draped over her shoulders the day it was dedicated in 1927. We thought, what a perfect fit. My feeling about it is, I think they wanted the statue in the condition it was when it was taken down, not when it was put up. And that's my opinion. The Valentine Museum houses the Jeff Davis statue, and that's in the condition that it was taken down, is it not?
Right, it's in the vandalized state with paint. So I have a little bit of a different opinion about vandalism, is that in a sense, it needs to be fixed if it's just paint. If something's broken, you need to fix it right away. It's dangerous. But if it's paint, see, bronze is the sculptor's favorite medium because it's not going to go away. And Easy Off oven cleaner is going to clean it. Now, you may have to repatina it to make it all one color again, not blotchy, but it's going to turn green. So in the long-term view, the symbol stays the same. But so what John's talking about, like Jefferson Davis, who's on the floor at the Valentine Museum, covered in paint, people come and look at that, and that's telling a story of the 2020 riots, you see, of the mob mentality that tore Columbus down. And the trouble with the internet and the social media is it is kind of a mob, isn't it? It is kind of a mob mentality, or it can be. And that's what's dangerous about it. Information is easily misrepresented. So to have a symbol that speaks on its own, like John was saying, is worthy, in my opinion. So I have a slightly different view on that. But I also get hired to clean statues, so I don't want to push that. You can let your museum know that. No, but it's, the higher up, the better. I'm currently working on a project in Rocky Mount, Virginia. This is 5-year-old history, which is relatively new in history. And it's 70 men from Franklin County, Virginia. Rocky Mount's kind of the capital center town, migrated to the north before the Civil War. Those men were conscripted by the Union Army and fought against the South. Those black men were conscripted and fought against the South. So some were free blacks, some were enslaved people who were now fighting for the South, against the South, for the North. That's pretty big news. And this all got discovered just 5 years ago at Virginia Tech. The monuments across Appalachia was funded by the Mellon Foundation, and they have done monuments in little towns across Appalachia, Rocky Mount being one of them, with this story, the only one with that intense cultural capital. Cultural capital. It is. Nobody else has that story. And So we started on this, it's been about a year that I've been involved, and it's coming together beautifully. 2 of the stones are coming from Monument Avenue that were donated by the Black History Museum of Virginia that used to be Confederate stones on Monument Avenue, if you can follow all that. Which is pretty poetic in a way. So, it also means that the stones, they were going to spend $20,000 for a puny little 2-foot stone in the ground. And I managed to find a friend of mine who owns Booth Memorial Company, has provided a stone that's 5 feet tall at cost. And then on the other 2 stones, it's going to be a 7-foot base and a 7-foot statue. So it's a 14-foot monument to these men. The point being that that Rocky Mount did not want it on public property. The city council would not, like the museum, would not approve it. So it's on private property in a church that's no longer active. The last time the church was rented out, it was a hair salon, but it looks like a church. And it's owned by First Baptist Church in Rocky Mount, which is a black church. And now that church is going to be the historical society in Rocky Mount for black people. There is a historical society in Rocky Mount. Are there any black people in that historical society? There are not. So, you know, we're one step forward. Let's hope it's just one step back every once in a while, but we're getting there. But the take home tonight really is, sir, you're doing a great job with cultural capital at the museum next door. And the higher, the better as far as vandalism goes.
Yeah. It ain't over yet.
It's kind of getting late. I don't know if you all need to eat dinner yet, but if there are further questions, feel free to come up afterward. Help yourself to the postcards. I think I've got enough, one for everybody. And thank you for your membership and your support. And it's a pleasure to be here tonight. And thanks to IACA for your support.
These evenings don't come about by themselves. We have Odile Pryor, who has done a super job with programming for many years for us. Pat Boffman and everyone who brought things. And Tevin, who does a beautiful job with the flowers. Anyway, it is our pleasure to do this. And I just wanted to recognize these hardworking, faithful friends of ours. If you guys will come forward, please.
I started on the wine Tuesday.
No, you didn't. We want to present to you this contribution to the Italian American Cultural Society of Richmond. You can put it in whatever fund you want. And no gift from Italy would be, it needs a bottle of wine. So thank you very much. Did I did that. Thank you all for coming. We are the Fredericksburg-Este Association. I have business cards in the back. You can find more about us there. And if you want to join, we'd love to have you. Thank you for coming.